Welcome to all of our current subscribers and also to new viewers that are interested in all things that are mysteries and miracles. If you like this video, please share and subscribe. In January of 1943, World War II was raging and the U.S. was embroiled in the Battle of the Atlantic. The Allies lost 45 ships during that month, and they were desperate for ways to get an advantage at sea. According to witnesses, in October of 1943, a top-secret experiment was performed by the U.S. Navy in Philadelphia that would hopefully turn the tide of the war. The experiment proposed by Dr. Franklin Reno would use Albert Einstein's unified field theory to envelop ships with a special force field that would make them invisible to radar. Of course, the benefits of such a force field would be huge. The ship used for the experiment was the USS Eldridge, a 1,600-ton destroyer with a crew of 216. The Eldridge had been launched for the first time in July of 1943 and had not yet seen active service. It was said that the Eldridge was being equipped with several large generators as part of a top-secret mission to win the Battle of the Atlantic once and for all. Military officials and other Navy personnel waited expectantly as the signal was given to activate the machines that were supposed to produce the force field. But instead, witnesses saw the ship glow bright green and then completely disappear before their very eyes. As shocking as the disappearance was, it was even more incredible that witnesses saw the Eldridge appear briefly in a Virginia Navy yard which was hundreds of miles from Philadelphia. Also, two sailors from the Eldridge were said to appear suddenly in a nearby bar where they were well known, before vanishing again during a barroom brawl. Most horrifying of all, when the ship finally reappeared 4 hours later in Philadelphia, some of the ship's crew were fused into the structure of the ship. Other crew members of the Eldridge were driven insane by the experience. Yet other crew members vanished and never reappeared with the ship. In perhaps the most surreal report, sailors from the ship continued to phase in and out of view as if they were caught up in some three-dimensional rip current. According to classified military reports, members of the Eldridge crew suffered from severe burns and disorientation. It was said that the ship clocks on the Eldridge were 10 minutes out of sync with actual time, and some said that this pointed to a possible tear in the fabric of time. According to some reports, the Navy covered up the failed test, including transferring the remaining sailors to other posts, and in some cases, certain witnesses died under questionable circumstances. But as time passed, witnesses that remained began to share their stories of what happened to the USS Eldridge and her crew. Carl Allen, better known by his pseudonym Carlos Allende, was the most vocal witness of the events in Philadelphia in October of 1943. In 1956, Allende sent over 50 letters to author and amateur astronomer Morris Jessup, who a year earlier had published a book called The Case for the UFO. In his letters, Allende claimed to have been taught unified field theory by Albert Einstein himself. This theory, which has never been proven, theorizes that the forces of gravity and electromagnetism are linked as part of one basic foundational field. To prove that a unified field theory existed, Allende said he was an eyewitness to the experiment in 1943. He claimed he was on a nearby ship and saw the disappearance and reappearance of the Eldridge in the Philadelphia Naval Yard. Interestingly, no other witnesses from the crew of the Eldridge or nearby ships had come forward in the 13 years since that day in October of 1943. Morris Jessup tried to investigate Allende's claims, but was unable to make any progress because Allende couldn't provide any real physical evidence. But in 1957, Jessup was contacted by two officers from the government's Office of Naval Research. According to Naval Research records, the two officers were investigating a strange package that they received in 1956. It had a copy of Jessup's UFO book, along with handwritten notes saying that alien technology was used to develop breakthroughs in unified field theory, and that knowledge was used in the Philadelphia experiment. When Jessup reviewed the notes, he recognized the handwriting as belonging to Carlos Allende. But for unknown reasons, the Office of Naval Research published 127 copies of Jessup's book along with the handwritten notes. Copies of these books became the basis for many conspiracy theories around UFOs and the Philadelphia experiment. Unfortunately, Morris Jessup's life spiraled downwards and ended in suicide in 1959. It took until 1965 for the arrival of the first widely published account of the Philadelphia event. Paranormal writer Vincent Gaddis published Invisible Horizons: True Mysteries of the High Seas, which included Carlos Allende's story of what happened to the USS Eldridge in 1943. In 1979, another paranormal writer, Charles Berlitz, wrote what is considered to be the definitive book on the topic. Berlitz's book, titled The Philadelphia Experiment, expanded on Vincent Gaddis's work and included some of the lesser-known parts of the story. Hollywood got into the act and made several movies about the alleged experiment. The 1984 film titled The Philadelphia Experiment was relatively successful, not so much for the 2014 sequel. Carlos Allende lived a secluded life, surfacing occasionally to deny his story, only to later reassert the truth of his claims. He died in 1994. It's important to mention that the U.S. government has consistently denied that the Philadelphia experiment ever took place. And it does seem incredible that a 1,600-ton ship could just disappear and then reappear again. But then again, science today continues to develop technology that was seen as impossible not too many years ago. And according to government records, the USS Eldridge was not in Philadelphia at all in October of 1943. The logs show that she was undergoing sea trials with her new crew. The ship eventually was sold to the Greek Navy in 1951 and renamed the Leon. So what happened in October of 1943? Did Carlos Allende and other witnesses really see a ship disappear and then mysteriously reappear? Did the Navy's proposed experiment to shield ships from radar go horribly wrong? The official government position is that nothing at all happened that day. But if that's true, why did the Office of Naval Research get involved? We may never know exactly what happened that day in October of 1943. Maybe nothing happened. But there are those that believe that the Philadelphia experiment will remain one of our greatest paranormal mysteries.